Morning, everybody. This is Friday the 13th. I hope you're all doing well and you're getting safely through this day. I'm taking you today on this little Friday to another tracker update for the Ocean Globe Race. And we have some news because the tracker just updated the rather inshore, more scenic route of Outlaw and made them suddenly first in adventure class. So Outlaw is now first in adventure class. They are the closest distant to the next waypoint. And there were some questions on Facebook about this as well. And I see where the confusion comes from, because what the tracker does, we have this red rump line, right? That's a line that we put in there. We basically just use two waypoints, the one off here and the one further south in the South Atlantic, because if we would not do that, it would just take the most direct line to South Africa. So that would look a little bit like this, right? But this line usually is not the track that you would normally sail to South Africa, because as we know, there's the South Atlantic High. If we toggle the weather over, you see it here, right? So most boats, when they sail from Europe down to South Africa, you take a further western route, so you get a beam reach condition, and then you just follow until you find the south of the South Atlantic High, and then you sneak into South Africa. But some boats, like Outlaw and Evrika and Godspeed, they're taking the inshore, the upwind route, so it's just beating upwind. And sometimes it pays out, because of course the mileage is much less than taking the long trip across. So the direct route from from the Cape Verdes all the way down to Cape Town is 3,750 miles. But for the ones who take the extra mileage, it's let's say here, okay, it's 2,000 miles down to Fernando de Noronha, around about, and then 2,000, and then it's about another 2,800. So it's 4,000. It's nearly 1,000 miles more, which of course takes more time. But if you have good beam reach conditions, you also usually have a bit more speed, and it's a much nicer sail. So there's a give and take in the two strategies, but it seems like for Outlaw it starts to pay off. And it's really interesting. I mean, they are really, I'm just amazed how high to the wind they sail. And it's really a big difference also to the GGR, because these boats, the Swans, they sail much better upwind, of course, even though they are the same age and rather old. But they have a long keel, and it's a fin keel. And it's a much more modern design, of course, than the old long keel boats on the GGR. Anyway, so much to that. So Outlaw is now first in adventure class, and let's see over the next week how that pans out, and if they're gonna be able to hold the lead. If we take a look to the leaderboard, to the IRC leaderboard, it should reflect also that. Outlaw, so Outlaw is now 5th in the IRC. After Translated is still leading the IRC first there. Penduik 6 is still the second in the IRC, and Spirit of Helsinki, and then Maiden, so nothing has changed there. And now Outlaw is 5th and took the lead over from Triana. So that's going to be a very interesting race between Outlaw and Triana. Outlaw has now 1,600 miles left, but as you can see, the wind is just coming straight from the southeast. So they're gonna have to tack down. So they're probably gonna follow that track for 1,000 miles. So that's about, what would that be? That would be like 5-6 days, and then they will be tacking into Cape Town. Meanwhile, Triana, they have to now. That's interesting as well. So they're going to have some extra miles as well, because they have to go a little bit further south. You see, because there's this, that's the center of the high, of the South Atlantic High. And let's see what the weather does. So if we go to windy, and if we go 24 hours ahead, what does the high do? Oh, okay, so it's moving, and there's this little front coming here. That's very interesting. Okay, and then another 24 hours. It's moving further. Ooh, and there's a whole ridge of no wind. So that's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. Because the fleet who's taking the standard route down, they're going to experience this ridge, this low wind area just before the front is coming through, and then here is the next high pressure moving in before then. Right, so that's all very interesting. That's all very interesting because it looks like to me that Triana, they're going to run out of breeze over the next 2-3 days, and so does the whole fleet in a way. Penduic 6, they're just entering. They can't go further south. It wouldn't make much sense for them. So tomorrow they're gonna cling to the last little bit of wind down there. Oh yeah, that's going to be very light conditions, but then they're going to be through and have beam reach conditions to Cape Town. So they're going to keep moving, but it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen between the front pack, Penduic 6, Spirit of Helsinki, Translated 9, and Maiden, the 4 leading boats for line honors. And Spirit of Helsinki is still on... Yep, they're on the heels of Penduic 6, and Translated 9 for me is still one of the boats that are sailing just the most beautiful first leg, the most beautiful race. They're just carrying on, they're just putting through, keeping the speeds up, 8.1 knots, and leading the IRC ever since the start. So that's very impressive. Then going a little bit further to the back of the fleet, we have Explorer, who took a little sightseeing tour of Brazil, trying to get some coconuts, and but they took the corner now a little bit and trying to sail a little bit more upwind, which is going to gain them some valuable miles to Cape Town, so that they hopefully come in time as well. And of course, that's the big concern, or the big thought that everybody is having on their mind now. It's still 2,800 miles, and if we think about that, it will be about 1,200 miles probably per week. So that's just about 2.5 weeks, which gets them in just by the end of the month. And for some, Godspeed will be very interesting, but for Evrika and for Explorer, it will be very, very interesting because they're probably just going to have 1 week or 5 days of turnover in Cape Town before they go for the second leg. So we're going to have an eye on that. They definitely have to put some, put the torpedoes on and carry, they push the boat a bit harder. Maybe go a little bit further outwind to get into Cape Town in time. For the rest of the fleet, I'm not concerned at all. For Sterna, Galliana, Vissecure, White Shadow, Neptune, Triana, L'Esprit d'Equipe, they're all gonna be there on time. They're having very light, but very, very pleasant conditions at the moment. If we toggle over the waves, there you go. It's a bit of a confusing seas there, but the seas are very, very low, huh? So it's like it's basically not impacting the sailing that much. If we look at the clouds, the cloud coverage, there you go. They have beautiful conditions. They don't have a lot of sea. They have a steady breeze. They have no clouds, so they can make beautiful celestial sides, know exactly where they are. And hopefully they have a good way to patch through via the BLU, by the SSB, to get some good weather forecast. From conversations I had with them last week on their weekly calls, I'm aware that they all chat on the HF. They have very, very active HF radio chat sessions. And they exchange weather a lot because some of the teams are very well organized. They have a whole setup in Europe and around the world with radio amateur operators to give them the standard World Meteorological WMO, World Meteo Organization weather forecast for the high seas, and they share them amongst the fleet. They also tell each other where they are. So that's of course very interesting because so I talked to Sterna, I talked to Gerrit last week or earlier this week, and he told me that he's getting the weather, the position updates from Ivrika and from Explorer, which of course is a good push for them because they know that they are in front of them and that they are not doing too bad in the race. And indeed, they are not. They are not. Sterner is doing a very solid race, and Galliana is definitely pushing as well. It's the oldest boat in the fleet, so it's not surprising that they can't keep up with most of the fleet, especially in boats like Neptune and L'Esprit d'Equipe, who are much bigger, and then of course the front fleet. So that is pretty much it, I would say. There are no dramas, no big news. It's a long leg. Everybody is saying that they are cooking now and cleaning the boats and also getting a little bit bored. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge now for the rest of the race. If there's no big surprises here in the South Atlantic, which can always happen, there's the lows from the South Sea. Southern Ocean, they can approach very quickly. Sometimes they are very small, and then they just rush through. So there can be some surprises. Depends on how far south the boats go. But now, everybody's putting a bit more easting in and trying to get to Cape Town in time. So we're all very excited. The team is down there already. I just arrived in the Netherlands. It's howling here. It's about 40-45 knots coming through. But we have the heater on and it's nice and warm inside. So no sailing today and doing some good tracker updates. And I hope you all are doing very well. Don will be back tomorrow morning with a tracker update. And I wish you a very happy and safe Friday the 13th. And I hope to catch you soon, maybe next week for another tracker update from me. That's it. Cheers and have a beautiful weekend. Bye, 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 bye.